Chapter 122. Countless silver-white chains burst out from the golden ripples behind Wuming and Angelica. The chains wrapped around Wuming and Angelica were hung up. Both of them used the same method to hang each other up in the same posture. Wuming was tied up tightly by Enkidu because he didn't think about dodging at all. Angelica was also tied up tightly by Enkidu because she didn't think about dodging. Wuming, who was tied up in the air, looked at Angelica with a smile and said, "It seems that we are thinking of the same thing." Because Silent Wonder's caster form and Angelica's card form, Archer Gilgamesh, had a lot of divinity, and the extremely rare Enkidu was the biggest nemesis of the two of them. Angelica expressed her dissatisfaction with Wuming's statement. She frowned and said, "You really dare to use a fake, Hyunryong." Those Enkidu were the fake Enkidu that Wuming used on the Berserker Hercules card user. Wuming used Create Advanced Item to create a fake that was comparable to the real thing. Even if it was comparable to the real thing, a fake was a fake, and it could be judged by its aura. And because Wuming released more than one Enkidu, Angelica was more certain that Wuming used a fake. For Angelica, who didn't like and even hated fakes, it would undoubtedly irritate her. Wuming was interested in Angelica's dissatisfaction. "It seems that you and Gil hate fakes very much." Wuming recalled the cute Gil and couldn't help but sigh. "So what do you want to do, Angelica Ainsworth?" Angelica was distressed by Rosin's words. Because Angelica couldn't cause effective damage to Wuming at all. It was true that Archer Gilgamesh's card could be said to be invincible against other servants, but it was too weak against Wuming. After all, Wuming was the person who taught the famous hero King Gilgamesh. Although they were not in the same world, it was much easier to deal with his disciple than to deal with other unknown servants. What's more, Wuming had the spirit of Ain Zol Gaon, which stored a lot of powerful magic, and the Nameless Spellbook, which stored all the magic in the other world. Wuming was no weaker than Gilgamesh in terms of artillery bombardment. After all, with Gilgamesh's character, she would not remember all the real names of noble phantasm. At most, she would remember the real names of 5 or 6 noble phantasms. Wuming guessed it right. Angelica indeed only knew the real names of a few noble phantasms. That had a great impact on Angelica. As a result, in addition to using noble phantasms, Angelica could only use melee and noble phantasm to attack. In terms of melee, Angelica couldn't gain the slightest advantage against Wuming. Not to mention that Wuming was the disciple of the Lord of the Demon Realm. Wuming's experience over the years was enough to defeat Angelica. After all, Wuming was also known as the strongest knight of the Round Table by virtue of his martial arts. If Noble Phantasm was released, Wuming would also release his Noble Phantasm to fight against her. With the support of a huge amount of magic, Wuming's mythical Yggdrasil was not something that any servant could fight against. "Then, I'll take out a weapon that you can't fight against," Angelica shouted. Then, a golden ripple appeared behind her. However, the speed of the golden ripple was a little slow. Moreover, the number of noble phantasms that appeared in the golden ripple was obviously reduced. There were only a few grade A noble phantasms. It was obvious that the Enkidu created by Silent Wonder was starting to take effect. It was starting to suppress Angelica's magic power. Clang, clang, clang. Angelica fell to the ground with the sound of the chains breaking. Wuming was the same. The sacred lance in his hand floated in the air and automatically moved. It penetrated the chains on Wuming's body. Wuming also fell to the ground. After all, Enkidu was not a powerful weapon in the first place. It was just an ability that had a strong binding effect on divine enemies. Even for those servants who had high strength but did not have divine attributes, as long as they used their strength, they could break it. Then, a golden ripple appeared beside Angelica, and the hilt of a sword was revealed. The hilt was golden, and there was a strange sword guard on the upper part of the hilt. Angelica pulled hard, and a sword that looked like a sword appeared in Angelica's hand. Other than the body of the sword, the rest of the sword was normal. Only the body of the sword was a black cylindrical object. There were 3 parts of the black cylindrical object. The 3 parts were pieced together to form a long tube. There were very red patterns engraved on it, and it looked very mysterious. "Is this the Enkidu sword?" Wuming's expression became serious. As the mentor of the hero king, Gilgamesh, Wuming naturally knew about the legendary sword that could split heaven and earth apart. The Enkidu sword. Although it was a name given by Gilgamesh, the sword that did not look like a sword at all lived up to its name. Ea was a god that existed before the creation of heaven and earth in Mesopotamia's mythological system. Needless to say, the function of the sword was needless to say. Angelica held the Enkidu sword high, and the three cylindrical blades began to rotate separately. As they rotated, there were traces of red air blades. There were more and more air blades, and they were getting bigger and bigger until they rushed to the sky and parted the clouds. Looking at the majestic huge tornado, Wu Ming, who knew how powerful the weapon was, began to prepare to release the noble phantasm. Ancient and eternal primordial dragon, show yourself and save the world once more. As the noble phantasm was released, a large amount of platinum mist appeared around Wu Ming. Angelica held the Enkidu sword in one hand and focused her gaze. Take this attack. Hyunryong. Enkidu sword. Enkidu sword. Heaven Age. A huge red tornado descended from the sky, rushing towards Wu Ming. Wherever it passed, there were cracks in the space. Some of them even had gaps in the space, revealing mysterious black holes. The platinum mist surged wildly and spread to the surroundings. The mist completely blocked Wu Ming's body, and one could vaguely see a black shadow in the platinum mist. The red sword aura came violently, and the white mist spread quietly. Soon, the two of them collided. The seemingly gentle mist exploded with unimaginable toughness. The red sword aura only managed to break through a small part of it before it was blocked by the white mist. What? Angelica stared at the scene in disbelief. Chapter 123. Angelica looked at the unusual white mist and asked in doubt. What the hell is this? How can it resist Ea's attack? Facing Angelica's surprised and doubtful voice, a mute voice sounded from the white mist. This is naturally my noble phantasm. Angelica. Don't think that I can only use magic because I'm a caster. This is my real body. Yes, Wu Ming's noble phantasm was to summon his real body. Because he summoned his real body as a servant, Wu Ming's root dragon's blessing temporarily lost its effect. After all, it was called his real body. At best, it was just a projection of Wu Ming's real body. Moreover, the modern world of the shaped moon had the ability to automatically repair things that should not exist, such as fantasy breeds. As a result, once Silent Cry summoned his entire body or summoned part of his body for too long, there was a high chance that he would be attacked by the world itself. Because Wu Ming had been hurt by the world once, this time Wu Ming learned his lesson and only summoned part of his body. That led to the creation of the platinum mist. The platinum mist was a part of Wu Ming. That was the ultra-low density decomposition state of Wu Ming's body. Through Wu Ming's decomposition of his body, which could be regarded as indestructible, combined with a skill holy breath, it formed the platinum glowing mist. From another point of view, it could be said that the mist was equivalent to Wu Ming's scales. It stood to reason that even so, it shouldn't be able to resist Wu Ming's ultimate release, but it couldn't resist Wu Ming's skill. Formation creation. EXA's a magician, he could create a terrain that was advantageous to him. Formation creation. EXA's a magician, he could create a terrain that was advantageous to him in a short time. As long as there were materials, he could even create a shrine that was once enshrined. Item creation. He could make magical items. There was a magic book that contained all the magic in a certain world, and with the skill Otherworld magic, he could make all the items in a certain world. Through the formation, Wu Ming could transform his current land into a suitable place for himself. Through the creation of the item, Wu Ming could add the world protection of this item, fog, to the world item. Wu Ming had used Yggdrasil to fight with Angelica before. The damage he had caused on the land was used as an anchor point to build his base. That was how Wu Ming was able to build the Uruk land the moment he released his relic. It was also due to the fact that Wu Ming was able to add the protection of a world-class item to his own items and relic. Just like that, the platinum-colored mist, which had been slightly weaker before, became an existence similar to an inherent barrier under these conditions. It was on par with the sword chi unleashed by the Guili sword. After all, the only way to defend against a world-defying relic was to offset the damage of the same level or use a relic of the same level. Wu Ming only knew one relic of the same level, and that was Artoria, King Arthur's relic Avalon. As an existence that could make the holder immortal, unharmed, and indestructible, Avalon was indeed an X-level relic, and it was a barrier relic that was specifically designed to deal with world-defying relic like the Guili sword. The Guili sword did not deal with the inherent barrier, but the world itself. As a barrier relic, Avalon just happened to counter the Guili sword.
After all, in the world of the moon, defense was stronger than attack, and it was more than twice as strong.
Wuming only knew a few relic of the same level. One of his master Skaha's abilities could open the gate of the kingdom of death and suck things in. Anyone or anything that was not approved by Skaha would lose their life as soon as they entered the gate of the kingdom of death. Other than Wuming, even Kukulin had only entered the kingdom of death with Skaha's approval. For example, the sword chi unleashed by the Guili sword would turn into nothingness as soon as it was sucked into the gate of the kingdom of death. There was also Artoria's Excalibur. Wuming believed that as long as the seal on the Excalibur was completely lifted, the sword would definitely be able to resist the Guili sword. The relic that Wuming was using at the moment, Wuming's body could be said to be an offensive relic, but it could also be said to be a defensive relic. As a dragon that was immune to time and space, the Guili sword was nothing to him. Of course, Wuming's relic of the caster class did not have any resistance to time and space. Even so, the nature of Wuming's bones would not change, and he could still have a slight effect on a relic like the Guili sword. Wuming took advantage of this effect and amplified it by mixing it with the protection of the world to resist the Guili sword. Wuming controlled the white mist to push forward. From time to time, parts of the white dragon's body would appear in the white mist. Sometimes the dragon's claws, sometimes the dragon's tail, sometimes the dragon's horns, and sometimes the dragon's back would appear. In this way, Angelica did her best to release her mana, but she still could not stop the white mist from pushing forward. She knew that as long as the white mist wrapped around her, she would definitely be killed by Wuming. After all, the dragon's shadow that kept appearing in the mist was not to be trifled with. At this moment, from the center of the huge pit, where Julian was surrounded by Wuming's magic puppets, a large amount of mana erupted. A large amount of black mist was advancing in all directions. Even Wuming could feel that the black mist was not friendly. Wuming stopped the white mist from pushing forward, and Angelica subconsciously removed the Guili sword's wind blade. As for Shiro Amiya, Sebastian, and Satya, who had already completed their mission, they hurriedly retreated. Wuming shrank the white mist to a range of 10 meters and lifted Wuming into the sky. Wuming did not pay attention to Angelica, who had already retreated. After all, if he could defeat her once, he could defeat her countless times. Wuming started observing the black mist and discovered that it was the same thing that destroyed the winter wood when Wuming had just arrived in this world. So this is a product of the Ainsworth family. Wuming frowned. Just as Wuming was about to use the method he had used to seal the black mist, something incredible appeared behind the black mist. Black sludge crazily rushed over. It was a large amount of mana condensed into a solid, formless, but dense mana essence. However, its black color and crazy aura were truly unflattering. Just as the black mud approached Wuming, Wuming sensed something familiar.
This is...
Chapter 124. The large amount of black mud in front of Wuming gave Wuming a familiar feeling and aura. It was the aura of a major origin. It was the origin of the minor origin where Wuming's main body was located, the place where Wuming was born. Although Wuming had never seen a major origin and could not understand why there was such a thing in the origin, it did not mean that Wuming did not recognize it. As if it was filled with resistance and disgust, Wuming frowned as he looked at the incoming black mud.
Ha 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 ha, Hyunryong, let's see how you block it.
Julian stood in the black mud and laughed maniacally as he looked at Wuming. At that moment, Julian was standing on a platform made of black mud, looking at Wuming and laughing without restraint. Tisk! Wuming spat unhappily. For some reason, Wuming just did not like the black mud that had the aura of his hometown. It was as if it was an innate resistance, as if it was a natural enemy. That was Wuming's evaluation of the black mud. Sorry for the trouble. Wuming rode the white mist and descended from the sky to the ground without black mud, meeting with Shiro Amiya and the others.
Lord Wuming.
Satya and Sebastian handed the class cards they had obtained from the water to Wuming. Wuming put away Saber and Lancer's class cards, then Wuming said to the two of them, "Thank you for your hard work." "Thank you for your hard work. Zaisha, Sebastian, go back and rest."
"Not at all. I've completed the mission given to me by Lord Wuming in such a sorry state.
I've sinned." Satya became serious, which was rare for her. "Although I wasn't in a difficult situation, I was unable to quickly defeat the opponent assigned to me by Sir Wuming. Please punish me, Sir Wuming," Sebastian said. Wu Ming chuckled and shook his head. You guys are still treating me like an outsider. Forget it. I'll remember this and go back first. Understood. Lord Wu Ming. Then, Wu Ming opened the portal and let the two of them in. Immediately after, Shiro Amiya also wanted to give his rank card to Wu Ming, but he was stopped by Wu Ming. Take them. Wu Ming placed the 5 job class cards in front of Shiro Amiya. Big brother? What are you doing? Shiro Amiya asked in confusion. Wu Ming had a resolute expression on his face as he looked at Wei Gong Shiro. Now, I need you to go back and fulfill your wish to the Holy Grail and take Mei Yu away. Shiro Amiya was even more confused. Let's not talk about the Holy Grail's wish. What about you, big brother? I have to clean up the mess made by Julian, and I have to do it. After all, he felt like he was an enemy. Even Wu Ming was affected by that feeling. I won't explain the details to you. In short, follow the steps on this blueprint and quickly take Mei Yu away. Julian's means are more than that. With that said, Wu Ming summoned a piece of parchment out of thin air. That was an indestructible manuscript that could be recorded with magical power, and it was set to be indestructible. Wu Ming stuffed the parchment into Shiro Amiya's hand, and then put 5 cards into his hand. Now, Saber, Lancer, Caster, Assassin, Berserker, plus your Archer and the Rider you just got, 7 cards have been collected. Wu Ming turned around, walked a few steps, and looked at Shiro Amiya with his head tilted. Although it's only been 5 years, it's been a really good time. Apologize to Mei Yu for me. We have to be separated for a while. Big brother. Shiro Amiya held 6 cards in one hand and the parchment in the other, gritting his teeth. Although he didn't quite understand what the black mud was, it didn't mean that he didn't know the danger of the black mud. His nerves have been tense as if he was afraid of the black mud. I understand, big brother. I wish you good luck in martial arts. With that, Wei Gong Shiro drove his heroic spirit state, which had yet to be deactivated, back to his home. Well then, let's get started. A large amount of white mist was produced from Wu Ming's sleeves, and it quickly rushed toward the black mud. In an instant, like a flame meeting water, the two had a violent reaction. Explosions occurred frequently at the boundary between the fog and the black mud, and the sound of explosions continued to ring out. Sure enough, I and it are natural enemies. Only I can defeat it, and only it can defeat me. After saying such a strange thing, Wu Ming directly condensed the white mist. In an instant, the white mist turned into a white and sacred dragon. Roar! The dragon roared, then opened its big mouth, and a lot of white flames spurted out. The black mud was burned, and the sound of the explosion was endless, and it kept rushing toward the white dragon. At this moment, the black mud has been wrapped around the white dragon's body. Like a mythical battle, the residents of Winterwood City saw this scene. The sacred dragon fought against the dirty and turbid black mud, and the black mud wrapped around the dragon and completely wrapped it. After a while, as if digested, the white dragon disappeared, and the black mud was full of vitality, constantly surging. Ha 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 ha. See, Hyunryong, this is power, this is God, this is faith, this is everything, this is the omnipotent instrument that can save mankind. Julian stood in the open space, his face black, his eyes red, and he kept roaring. I see. Wu Ming's figure emerged from the black mud, and the black gas gradually eroded Wu Ming. Is this the reason why you want to make a wish? How foolish. Yes, in Wu Ming's view, Julian's mind was not only contaminated by the black mud, but even his soul was as if it had been dyed with black. Simply put, there was no saving him. But Julian was a 16-year-old boy. How could he have been corrupted for so long? There was only one answer. Your real identity is actually the first head of the Ainsworth family, Darius Ainsworth. Julian stopped laughing and looked at Wu Ming with a vicious gaze. As expected of Lord Hyunryong, you actually saw the truth. As he spoke, Julian changed his appearance. His hair was still black, and his eyes were still blue. His hair looked as if it had not been tidied for a long time. His upper body was very cool, and his lower body was wearing a pair of casual pants, revealing his leg hair, and a pair of flip-flops. In addition, his cheeks had become slightly similar to Julian's. At this moment, Julian had completely changed from one person to another. Is this also a replacement magic? Wu Ming asked. That's right. Lord Hyunryong, this is a technique I am proud of, although I am surprised that Julian was able to hold on without being replaced by me. Julian, no, Darius said. So that's how it is. Even his soul has been corrupted by you? Wu Ming already understood what was going on. Darius had used an unknown spell technique to swap his personality and soul with Aria's, but for some unknown reason, he was unable to completely swap with Aria, which was why this situation had occurred. But it's about time. In another 1 or 2 years, I should be able to take over this body, Darius said calmly. Then, he looked at Wu Ming. Lord Hyunryong, your power has been coveted by me for a long time. Seeing that you are about to disappear, I won't hold back. Wu Ming frowned. It seemed that Darius wanted to turn his power into a class card. Wu Ming smiled slightly. Then he said, You are still too naive, Darius Ainsworth. My power is not that easy to obtain. After that, the black mud seemed to explode from the inside, and white mist leaked out. Explosions occurred one after another, until the black mud was almost completely destroyed. Darius did not show any expression toward the black mud that was about to disappear. As if he saw Wu Ming's doubts, Darius explained, These items are no longer important. Even if Lord Hyunryong can destroy them, what can you do? You are about to disappear. Darius looked at the illusory Wu Ming. Although Wu Ming wanted to use himself as bait to destroy the black mud, the corrosion of the black mud had already reached the body of Wu Ming's follower. Wu Ming, who had reached his limit, was about to disappear. I have already arranged for Angelica to retrieve the Great Holy Grail. If there is a chance to see it again, it will be in the world after I make a wish. Goodbye, Lord Hyunryong. Wu Ming did not say anything about Darius' speech. He just looked at the direction of the Amiya mansion. After discovering that the spell he gave to Shiro Amiya was activated, Wu Ming turned into particles and dissipated. Chapter 125. Wu Ming opened his eyes and looked at the magical scene in front of him. Wu Ming was in a colorful space. Wu Ming could feel that this was the space inside the Great Holy Grail. Just like Shiro Amakusa, Wu Ming also entered the Great Holy Grail at this moment. Wu Ming could clearly feel that he didn't disappear, but was absorbed by the Great Holy Grail. Mei Yu absorbed him into her body. What the hell is that black mud? Wu Ming frowned and recalled the black mud that he destroyed. Wu Ming originally thought that the black mud was contaminated with the filth of his hometown, but after Wu Ming was swallowed by the black mud, Wu Ming discovered that the black mud was the same as him. In short, it was like a brother to Wu Ming. And the feeling between the two of them was like two brothers who became enemies in order to inherit the family business. It was full of a melodramatic atmosphere. Wu Ming shook his head and decided to put this matter aside for the time being. Then, Wu Ming thought of the previous battle. Wu Ming floated in the air, helplessly holding his forehead and said, Really, there are too many drawbacks of the servant's body. The servant, as a deteriorated version of the heroic spirit, was used as a tool by human magicians. Not only was their power limited by their rank, but they would also be absorbed by the Great Holy Grail when they left the battlefield. As far as Wu Ming knew, the Great Holy Grail absorbed the servant's soul, but Wu Ming believed that the Great Holy Grail absorbed the servant's mana. No matter what, the servant was also a great figure in history. How could a mere soulfall ritual absorb their soul? And because Wu Ming put his entire consciousness into the body of a caster, it led to Wu Ming and his mana body being absorbed by the Great Holy Grail. I don't know how Mei Yu and Shiro are doing. Sigh, I'm really unlucky. Now I can't even return to my body. Wu Ming complained. Wu Ming, as a servant, could rely on his special ability to break the contract and return to his seat. But now that he was in the Great Holy Grail, he couldn't do it now. At the very least, he had to wait until the Great Holy Grail was made a wish. Great Holy Grail, please create a world where Mei Yu can live normally. Suddenly, a voice came here, and then the colorful light around him began to move, constantly changing. This is Shiro's voice? Wu Ming was very sure that it was Wei Gong Shiro's voice. Moreover, this was Mei Yu's body, which was also the body of the Great Holy Grail. However, this wish was full of strange things. Wu Ming clearly asked Shiro Amiya to take Mei Yu away from this world through the Great Holy Grail's wish, but Shiro Amiya made a wish to create a world where Mei Yu can live normally. Could it be that Angelica is already here? Wu Ming said uneasily. After taking a deep breath and exhaling, Wu Ming calmed down. At this moment, Ming somewhat doubted whether the restraining force signed a contract with Ming to cheat him. Although Ming voluntarily became a heroic spirit, after all, it was to repay the restraining force's favor and to repay the restraining force. The restraining force allowed Ming to absorb energy from the source of the world. At this moment, the many restrictions of the servant made Ming somewhat speechless. Forget it anyway, the heroic spirit palace has already been built, and I have already left my name on the seat. Then, Ming looked at the colorful lights around him that kept changing. I wonder how the Great Holy Grail will fulfill this wish. The ordinary Great Holy Grail was just a crystal that stored a large amount of mana. In other words, the Great Holy Grail could do anything that could be done with magic. However, the Great Holy Grail might not be able to fulfill wishes that were beyond the scope of magic. For example, reviving the dead, reversing time, traveling to parallel worlds and so on. These were all within the scope of magic. However, Meiyo Shitsuki family was an exception. Their family's godchild could be regarded as the true Great Holy Grail, the true omnipotent wishing machine that could fulfill all wishes. However, Ming estimated that the wish to create a world might not be fulfilled even by magic. Even if it could be fulfilled, the mana in Meiyu, the Great Holy Grail, would not be enough to support the wish to create a world. That was why Ming was curious about how this wish could be fulfilled. I guess it would be to travel to parallel worlds. After all, Meiyu, the Great Holy Grail, who did not have enough mana to create a world, would only be able to travel to a parallel world where Meiyu could live an ordinary life under the system's judgment. Stopping his wild guesses, Ming waited quietly. Taking advantage of this moment of leisure, Ming began to meditate again. After all, this was the interior of the Great Holy Grail. How many people could enter? After a moment, 7 class cards appeared inside the Great Holy Grail and floated to Ming's side. Ming opened his eyes and looked at the 7 glowing class cards. At this moment, the class cards were being baptized by the Great Holy Grail and had undergone an unknown change. However, Ming could determine that apart from the Berserker class card, the other class cards would no longer have the effect of corroding the owner's mind when Dream Summon, Install, was used. Even if it was the Berserker class card, it would only give the user a berserk state where they would lose their mind if used for a long time. Has it begun? Ming said calmly. After a moment, this space, together with Ming and the 7 class cards, began to undergo an illusory change. This was the precursor of traveling to another world. In an instant, Ming's vision was covered by a white light and he lost consciousness. Outside, Shiro Amiya supported his body that was being synchronized with the nameless Archer class card and half knelt on the ground. On the opposite side, Angelica was holding the parting sword EA. Together with Shiro Amiya, she watched the Great Holy Grail's wish succeed. Great, my wish has been fulfilled, Shiro Amiya said weakly. Angelica turned to Shiro Amiya and said, since the Great Holy Grail has fulfilled your wish, the mission is considered a failure. However, Lord Julian said that if possible, I will bring you back alive. Golden ripples appeared behind Angelica's back. Since you used the inherent barrier to resist the parting sword and didn't die, I will follow Lord Julian's instructions and bring you back alive. After saying that, a few silver chains shot out from the golden ripples behind Angelica and rushed towards Shiro Amiya. Is this the end? Shiro Amiya wanted to get up, but his body couldn't stand. Just as Enkidu, Heaven Lock, was about to touch Shiro Amiya, a strange force interfered with the trajectory of Enkidu, Heaven Lock. What? Angelica said in surprise. I'm sorry, little girl. I promised someone's request to protect this kid. A strong old man appeared out of thin air and said to Angelica. Who are you? Angelica questioned. He's just a useless old man, Zelrich said. Ming had asked Zelik to take care of Shiro Amiya and Meiyu. Ming couldn't stay here forever. He just didn't expect to leave so early. This was also why Ming wasn't worried about Shiro Amiya. Then, I'll take this kid away first. After saying that, a special wave appeared around Zelik. Shiro Amiya and Zelik disappeared from Angelica's sight. Angelica was silent for a moment before leaving the Amiya mansion. Chapter 126. Not knowing how long it took, Ming woke up. Ah! What's the situation? Ming found that his body disappeared at this moment. Only his consciousness was left. Ming turned into a card, and it was the most familiar existence to Wu-ming. I became a class card? Yes, Wu-ming became a class card at this moment. Because of the Holy Grail and the class card, Wu-ming was affected by the class card and the Holy Grail, and his magical power was compressed and transformed into a caster class card by this true universal wishing machine. Wu-ming could clearly feel that he was now in a mirror-like space similar to an inherent enchantment. This mirror-like space was the same as the outside world, except that there was no life, everything else was exactly the same. It turned into a golden card that floated in a quiet and uninhabited place, emitting a few sounds. Although it's a bit different, the scene here seems to be Winterwood City. As a place where he lived for 5 years, even if some buildings or terrain changed, Wu-ming could clearly recognize that this was indeed Winterwood City. The card floated to a tree and lay down quietly. This should be the mirror world of another parallel world. If I'm not an exception, then the other 7 class cards should also be in such a space. Wu-ming reasoned. This can ensure that no one will get a class card and use it indiscriminately. I just don't know how Mei Yu is doing. Shiro Amiya, Zelik should have saved him. Zelik shouldn't go back on his words. Probably. Subsequently, Wu-ming began to explore his current state. Wu-ming found that he should be able to materialize. Wu-ming began to try to materialize. Just as Wu-ming tried to materialize, a magic circle suddenly appeared in the open space in front of Wu-ming. A white light flashed, and a tomboy appeared in place. Rose-colored short hair and pupils, a black suit, and a tear mole under her left eye. She was wearing a reddish-brown suit, earrings on her ears, black leather gloves on her hands, and a long bag on her back. That's Lune Rune? Wu-ming saw that there were Lune Runes on the tomboy's earrings and gloves. As the existence who mastered the original 18 Lune, he naturally recognized the appearance of other ordinary Lune Runes. As if someone broke into his territory, Wu-ming instantly materialized. She looked the same as before, white robe, short blonde hair, golden pupils, and dragon horn ornaments on her head, but there was some magic power spreading from her body. Bazette looked at the servant in front of him and frowned. She seems different from the previous servants. After hearing Bazette's words, Wu-ming spoke. Can you please tell me what's going on here? Let me tell you something. Bazette looked as if he was facing a formidable enemy. He clenched his fists and maintained a fighting posture against Wu-ming. Please calm down, Mississippi. I don't mean any harm. After hearing Wu-ming's words again, Bazette thought for a moment, then put down his fists, but his body still maintained a tense state. After all, the other party was a servant. Even if she was an existence that could be communicated with, she couldn't be sure that she was harmless to humans. Please don't worry. If I had attacked you, you would have died without a complete corpse. Wu-ming smiled and said something that made one's hair stand on end. It seems that you are a servant with a powerful real name, but you can't be too sure about that. It's still not certain who will win. Bazette said, unwilling to admit defeat. Oh, is that so? Do you want to fight? Wu-ming was also a person who didn't admit defeat. Since the other party said so, then he would play with her. After that, Wu-ming stretched out his hand, and a golden twisted scepter appeared in Wu-ming's hand. Enhance, increase. As the spell was recited, a large number of giant flames, giant magic bullets, giant ice blades, giant water guns, and other giant elemental attacks burst out toward Bazette. Bazette quickly moved, his hands with black gloves clenched. As the spell was recited, Bazette's gloves lit up with the light of Lune magic. He frequently used fighting skills, and the elemental attacks launched by Wu-ming were scattered by Bazette one by one. A green vine broke out from the ground under Bazette's feet and quickly wrapped around Bazette's legs. Bazette's face froze, his feet shook, and found that the vine was not broken. He immediately hit the vine with both hands. The vine was broken, and Bazette rushed toward Wu-ming. Wu-ming smiled, and his scepter flashed. Bazette punched Wu-ming, and like passing through a phantom, Bazette went through Wu-ming. A phantom. Was it just now or from the beginning? Bazette thought. Then, several Wu-ming appeared around Bazette, and with a wave of his scepter, 4 huge elemental spirits appeared. Summon primal 4 elemental. The 4 elemental spirits of earth, water, fire, and wind roared around Bazette. Bazette frowned. This guy, is he caster? And these magic tricks that I have never heard of, are they kamikaze's magic? Huge rocks, surging water, exploding flames, and fierce gales all attacked Bazette. Lune runes were used by Bazette to resist the 4 powerful magic attacks.
Wuming drew a rune with one hand, and several lune runes appeared, and Bazette's lune runes were instantly ineffective.
What? Bazette cried out in surprise. Although his lune magic was not the best, he was still a top-notch talent in using lune magic. But the opponent could break his lune magic in an instant. It seems that the opponent also mastered lune runes. Maybe it's the original 18 lune. That was Bazette's last thought before he lost consciousness.
Wuming removed the 4 elemental spirits and looked at Bazette, who fainted on the ground.
Young people just can't take a beating, Wu Ming said with the look of an otherworldly expert.
Then, he began to study the magic that the opponent used when he came here.
Cullis, have you analyzed what magic the opponent used? The dragon horn on Wu Ming's head made a sound. The analysis is complete. The cold voice continued, a specific space transfer technique, specifically used for space transfer in the mirror world. Then Cullis said, with all due respect, Master, you should learn the basic magic of this world. In response, Wu Ming smiled awkwardly. It was obvious that Cullis had mentioned this suggestion more than once. The only magic that Wu Ming mastered in the model moon world was the lune magic, and the Yggdrasil, world tree, system magic from another world. Compared to this kind of magic that leaned towards auxiliary analysis, Wu Ming was better at combat magic. This was also the reason why magicians in the type moon world were called magicians, because they basically studied the mysterious existence of magic. Only people like Jie Jieli, who was his master in the 14 Horsemen War, were called magicians. Magicians were magicians who used magic as props, and were usually looked down upon by other magicians.
Ma, don't I have you, Cullis?
Wu Ming smiled. Cullis sighed as if she had heard Wu Ming say the same answer many times. I really don't know if this is my honor or my failure. It was normal for the magic attire to be needed by the master. If the master no longer needed the magic attire, it meant that the magic attire was useless to the master, and was a waste. From the perspective of the magic attire, Cullis hoped that Wu Ming would use her. From the perspective of a family, Cullis hoped that Wu Ming could become able to explain everything without relying on Cullis. This was also why Cullis didn't know if she was honored or failed.
Anyway, let's go out first.
Chapter 127. Wu Ming relied on the data provided by Cullis to teleport and successfully left the mirror world. The moment Wu Ming came out, the mirror world collapsed. Of course, Wu Ming also brought Bazette out. After all, Wu Ming still needed this local magician from this world to be his guide, to ask for directions. It seems that this mirror world relies on my power to maintain its existence, Wu Ming said. According to the analysis of the mirror world's collapse, the mirror world exists because of the existence of the job class card. Because Master left, the job class card's mirror world directly collapsed. After listening to Cullis' explanation, Wu Ming looked around. This was a forest. There was an empty space in the middle of the forest, which was the same as the mirror world Wu Ming was in. A forest again? I really do have an affinity with forests, Wu Ming said.
He then looked at Bazette, who was lying on the ground.
Then, I'll have to wake her up first. After a while, Bazette was leaning against a tree. A ball of water splashed onto Bazette's face. Bazette instantly woke up and hurriedly stood up, maintaining a defensive posture. No need to be so nervous, Wu Ming was still holding the staff of Ain's Ergong as he spoke to Bazette. Now you can see that if I want to do something, you won't be able to stop me. Bazette seemed to have understood the situation and simply stopped resisting. First, who are you? Then, please explain the situation of this world to me, and why did you come to that mirror world just now? Also, you seem to know about the job class card. What's going on here? Bazette was quite honest. He gave up on lying and keeping his mouth shut and told Wu Ming everything in detail. The tomboy's name was Bazette, and her full name was Bazette Fraga Macremies. She was a member of the Magic Association and had inherited the God's Holder family. Currently, the Magic Association had sent her on a mission to retrieve job class cards. This world was indeed a parallel world to the Moon world. There were also magicians, 27 ancestors, various clans, and so on. Basically, it was similar to what Wu Ming understood in Meiyo's world. Class card, a special magic attire that suddenly appeared in the spiritual vein of Japan's Winterwood City. It could trigger the power of heroic spirits. After the Magic Association detected the anomaly in Winterwood City, they discovered the existence of the class card. The appearance of the rank card would be accompanied by the appearance of the mirror world, which was where Wu-Ming had been before. But so far, only 2 class cards had appeared, and they seemed to appear periodically. Bazette was the person in charge of retrieving the cards. So far, the 2 cards that had appeared had been retrieved by Bazette alone. Therefore, after the appearance of Wu-Ming's card, the Magic Association had once again sent out an expert to retrieve the cards. It was just that they didn't expect Wu-Ming's card to have its own consciousness. According to Bazette, the 2 class cards that she had retrieved before were similar to the existence of the Shadow Servant, which had no consciousness and could only attack instinctively. Once stepping into the mirror world where the class card existed, the class card would materialize and attack the intruder. According to Bazette, the 2 cards that were retrieved were Lancer and Archer. Lancer's corresponding heroic spirit was Ireland's Son of Light, Ku Churin, and Archer's corresponding servant could not be determined yet. According to the other party's description of Archer's attack method, Wu-Ming could determine that Archer's class card was Shiro Amiya's heroic spirit. That is to say, the place where I am now is indeed the parallel world where Meiyu can live an ordinary life. Since the class card has come here, then what about Meiyu? Wu-Ming thought. Master, according to the other party's description of the periodic appearance of class cards, it is likely that Miss Meiyu will appear after all the class cards have appeared. Collis said to Wu-Ming telepathically. Very likely. So, Miss Bazette, how did you defeat those servants with noble phantoms? Wu-Ming was very curious about this point. According to the battle between Wu-Ming and Bazette, Wu-Ming did not think that Bazette could defeat a servant by herself. Otherwise, she would not have been captured by Wu-Ming. Either there was someone behind her, or you have your own trump card. Wu-Ming said. There was no other possibility, but Bazette didn't show it when he was fighting with Silent Wonder with real swords and guns. If Wu-Ming did not stop at the end, Bazette might not even have ashes left. In that case, it was impossible for Bazette to have a trump card. Bazette fell into silence. Why don't you want to say it? Wu-Ming smiled. Forget it, even if I don't say it, as a magician of the gods, you will definitely use the magic of memory manipulation to look through my memory. Bazette was somewhat desperate. Wu-Ming was a little bit dumbfounded. So this is the truth that you didn't hide from me. It seems that I really have the ability to control memory. That is the magic of Yggdrasil, World Tree. Who knows what kind of magic is set up in the game to control memory? I have this. As he spoke, Bazette took out the long cylindrical pouch on his back and handed it to Wu-Ming. Wu-Ming took a look and immediately understood. There were 3 stone ball-shaped objects in the bag. These were all noble phantoms that existed in the world. Bazette told him about her situation. This stone ball was not only a magic suit, but also a noble phantasm called Fragarak, also known as Backlight Sword. Backlight Sword was the short sword of Ruger Mac Esselin, the god of war in Celtic mythology. Legend has it that this sword did not require the user to attack. It would unsheath itself and kill the enemy before they could draw their sword. Therefore, this noble phantasm had another name, Severer, which was why it was called the Sword of Question and Answer. It was an extremely rare noble phantasm. It was only passed down by the God's Keeper family. It had a specific condition, which was that it would only be awakened when the opponent used their trump card. According to legend, Backlight Sword would hit the opponent first after it was activated. It was a powerful noble phantasm that attacked later. Its normal form was a sphere, which was carried by Bazette everywhere. The production method was for Bazette to drip his own God's Keeper blood on the ore and place it in the basement for a month with a secret method. According to Bazette, this weapon that was both a noble phantasm and a magic suit could only be made 10 per year. So that's how it is. Is this the God's Keeper clan? Because I didn't feel that you were using your trump card, Backlight Sword could not be awakened and I couldn't use it. Even if I used it forcefully, it could only be used as a powerful magic bullet. Bazette looked at Wu-Ming deeply. He was indeed a god magician to be able to knock her unconscious without using his trump card. That was just a coincidence. Who asked you to use the loon magic in front of me? One of the magic tricks I'm best at is the loon magic, said Wu-Ming. So, what are your plans now, Ms. Bazette? Chapter 128. If you want to let me go, you don't have to say that. Bazette said calmly.
Wu Ming smiled and said, "Well, I'll let you go, but you're not allowed to report my existence to the higher-ups." Bazette frowned and then said, "I'm here to perform the task of recovering the rank card.
If I don't report your existence, then what about your rank card?" Regarding this point, Wu Ming had long thought of it. Create green item, advanced item creation. Wu Ming took a card with nothing printed on it and handed it to Bazette. Then Wu Ming said, "You tell those higher-ups that the heroic spirit power inside the rank card went berserk and self-destructed. After the explosion, only this rank card was left." Bazette looked at the rank card and put it away. "Although this reason is barely passable, what about the self-destruct?" For Bazette's question, Wu Ming replied, "Leave it to me, you don't have to worry about it." After discussing the matter, Bazette left directly. Wu Ming used fly and floated to the sky. Black hole. The ground where the mirror world was previously located was smashed and sucked in by the black hole used by Wu Ming, leaving a large pit in place. Of course, Wu Ming didn't want to cause any panic. After all, Wu Ming didn't want to cause any panic. Then, Wu Ming left directly. Bazette had returned. She had already set up a barrier around the forest for idle people to disperse. Before ensuring that the crater was repaired, ordinary people would not be able to enter. Bazette looked at her shriveled long cloth bag. The backlight sword in it was taken away by Wu Ming. But in exchange, Wu Ming took out an engraved stone, which was engraved with a rune second only to the 18 primordial rune. It's not a loss, and it seems like the other party is easy to talk to. However, we still have to find out the other party's real name. Golden hair and golden eyes. I remember that it's similar to Mesopotamia's mythological system. I'll start looking for it when I get back. After saying that, Bazette left again. The silent forest was originally very quiet at night, but because of the destruction, it became even more eerie and terrifying. However, no one would come here. 3 days later, Wu Ming sat on a huge rock on Yuanzong Mountain, a mountain next to Winterwood City. There are no traces of Mei Yu and the other 5 class cards. Could they have appeared in other areas, or would they appear according to time? In the past 3 days, Wu Ming had explored the entire Winterwood City, including some of the areas around Winterwood City, but he still hadn't found any information related to the class card or Mei Yu. The only place with any information was the underground of Yuanzong Mountain. Wu Ming could feel that there was a huge amount of magic sealed below, and his initial guess was that it was the Great Holy Grail. Although the magic was abundant, its aura was different from Mei Yu's. Therefore, Wu Ming didn't think that the Great Holy Grail below was Mei Yu. Maybe it's the Great Holy Grail of this world. Wu Ming thought. Because he was unfamiliar with this place, Wu Ming had been using the stealth spell of Yggdrasil to effectively avoid Winterwood City's magicians. Wu Ming didn't want to expose his identity, so Wu Ming didn't directly break the seal of the Great Holy Grail under Yuanzong Mountain. However, Wu Ming was still worried about Mei Yu, so he decided to explore the Great Holy Grail under Yuanzong Mountain. However, the test results showed that it was just an ordinary magic crystal without any signs of life, which was why Wu Ming was sitting there so leisurely. Then, since I'm free, I can study this backlight sword. As he spoke, Wu Ming opened the golden ripples and spat out a fist-sized stone ball. Wu Ming still remembered what Bazette had said 3 nights ago when he was being interrogated by Wu Ming. If the enemy uses a trump card, the backlight sword will produce a wave, and I can use the backlight sword's late to attack first condition to cancel the enemy's attack and hit the enemy first. But if the enemy doesn't use a trump card, the backlight sword won't be effective and can only be used as an ordinary C or D grade magic bullet relic. Coincidentally, Wu Ming did not think that using the Yggdrasil, World Tree spell was a trump card. It was just a simple spell, so it could not cause Bazette's backlight sword to be activated. Moreover, other than the backlight sword and combat skills, Bazette was only good at Lune magic. That was why Wu Ming was able to break Bazette's Lune magic in an instant and hit Bazette's head, knocking him unconscious. Of course, Bazette still knew basic magic such as dispelling idle people. Wu Ming picked up the stone orb, and his mana seeped into the stone orb as he observed it. Collis, provide assistance. Yes, master. As soon as Wu Ming's voice fell, a gush of mana emerged from his body and attached to the stone ball. Wu Ming closed his eyes and felt the space inside the stone ball. After a while, smoke rose from the stone ball. As time passed, more and more smoke rose. In the end, the stone ball was like a broken machine, smoking all over.
Wuming opened his eyes and threw the broken stone ball on the ground.
As expected of a late start but early start relic, a relic passed down from the god's generation to the present. Wuming relied on Kala's help to study the knowledge of reversing causality in the stone ball. Wuming found that causality was not that easy to understand, so after completely destroying the backlight sword, he gave up on studying it. The backlight sword, as the name suggested, was a sword that reversed time, the divine sword of the sun god Luge. I'm really curious about the relationship between the Gods Holder family and those gods. By the way, the Gods Holder family didn't refer to a single family. Instead, it referred to the families that had passed down the mysteries of the gods. They stored the mysteries of the gods in the form of pathogens in their blood and passed it down through their descendants. Moreover, the mysteries passed down by the gods' generation differed greatly.
For example, the backlight sword that Bazit was able to create, the Fragarak of the war god was only passed down the method to create it, not the relic itself.
By dripping blood on a special or in placing it in a basement for a month, the backlight sword would automatically be created. But even with such simple conditions, it was possible to create a relic that could even kill a servant for a human to use. Forget it, this is giving me a headache. Let's not think about this for now. I have to find a place to stay. After all, he did not know when the other class cards in Mei would appear, so he had to find a place to stay first. Chapter 129. After Wuming left Yuanzhong Mountain, he walked on the streets of Winterwood City. At this moment, Wuming had already turned his hair black. After all, he wanted to keep a low profile. A blonde foreigner was always very conspicuous. Looking at the familiar yet unfamiliar streets of Winterwood City, Wuming sighed. Thinking about it, I really miss it. After all, Wuming had lived a peaceful life for 5 years. With Wuming's identity, he probably wouldn't be able to live a peaceful life for the rest of his life. Wuming also went to the original address of the Amiya mansion. It was just a wasteland in this world. Moreover, Winterwood City in this world wasn't destroyed. Wuming investigated the Great Holy Grail and learned that the magic power of the Great Holy Grail had existed for nearly 70 years. In other words, the Fourth Holy Grail War didn't happen at all. Moreover, the Great Holy Grail had been sealed and turned into a simple magic crystal under Yuanzhong Mountain. Although he didn't know why this world didn't have a Holy Grail War, it was undoubtedly a good thing, whether it was for Wuming or Mei Yu. A world without a Holy Grail War could be said to be relatively safe, even if the 72 ancestors existed. Thinking about this, Wuming subconsciously walked to the food market that he used to frequent. A familiar voice came.
Brother Amiya, come again next time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Store Manager. Wuming looked at the source of the voice. As a frequent customer, Wuming naturally knew the store manager. And standing in front of the store manager was a red-haired young man. Shiro. Hearing someone call his name, Shiro Amiya turned his head and looked at Wuming.
You are?
Wuming smiled when he saw the face that was exactly the same as Wei Gong Shiro's but slightly immature face. On the streets of the residential area, Shiro Amiya and Wuming walked side by side. Mr. Wuming, do I know you? Even so, Shiro Amiya still took Wuming home. Wuming only said, it just so happens that I don't have a place to stay now. I'll stay at your place for a few nights. After all, Wuming knew Shiro Amiya very well. In the world of Mei Yu, apart from his identity as a magician, Shiro Amiya was simply a good person. Therefore, Wuming believed that this world's Shiro Amiya's personality should be the same. This led to the scene just now. Shiro is really forgetful. We've met before, and you even affectionately called me Big Brother.
Is that so?
Then Big Brother.
Yes, Shiro, what's the matter?
Shiro Amiya looked at Wuming, who didn't let him speak at all. He wiped the non-existent sweat and felt a little powerless. I have a sister and 2 nannies at home. It may be a little inconvenient. I hope Big Brother doesn't mind. When he heard Shiro Amiya say that he had a sister, Wuming's eyes lit up. Then Wuming asked, what about your parents? Are they not at home? Shiro Amiya and Wuming turned the corner, then Shiro Amiya explained, they are often not at home because of work. They have been traveling abroad, so there is only me, my sister, and 2 aunts at home. I'm really looking forward to it. Shiro Amiya looked at Wu Ming in confusion. Mr. Wu Ming, what are you looking forward to? In response, Wu Ming said with a nostalgic expression, because I also have a cute sister. Then Wu Ming said, also, I told you to call me Big Brother. Why are you calling me Mr. Wu Ming? Then he looked at Shiro Amiya with a penetrating gaze. Shiro Amiya quickly said, I know, Big Brother. The two chatted. After a few minutes of walking, Shiro Amiya stopped in front of a small house. Big Brother, this is my home, Shiro Amiya said. Looking at this ordinary two-story house, Wu Ming thought in his heart. Sure enough, Shiro Amiya in this world lives an ordinary life. I just don't know if Shiro Amiya in this world's sister is Mei Yu. Big Brother? Wu Ming came back to his senses and looked at Shiro Amiya. Sorry, I was thinking about something just now, Wu Ming said apologetically. It's okay, let's go in. Then, Wu Ming followed Shiro Amiya into the house. I'm back, Aunt Sela, Shiro Amiya shouted, and then began to change his shoes. Shiro, Kun, are you back? A beautiful woman dressed in a housewife's outfit walked out. Short white hair, tied in a ponytail, placed in front of her chest, red pupils. Looking at the red pupils, Wu Ming thought of Sieg. According to Wu Ming's understanding, Sieg was made according to the androids of the House of Einstein Barons. It seems that this world is not so ordinary. Wu Ming thought. This is. Sela saw Wu Ming standing behind Shiro Amiya and asked in confusion. Nice to meet you, beautiful lady. I'm Shiro's brother when he was a child, Wu Ming said gracefully. Shiro, Kun's brother? How come I've never heard of this? Sela pointed her finger to her cheek, looking very puzzled. In short, my brother is going to stay in our house for a few days. Sorry to trouble you, Aunt Sela. Shiro Amiya quickly helped Wu Ming to smooth things over. Since Shiro has said so, well, I'll go and tidy up the room. After that, Sela walked into the room. It's really strange. Logically speaking, Aunt Sela shouldn't have agreed so easily. Wei Gongshi scratched his head and said with some doubt. Well, maybe I'm more polite. Wu Ming said with a smile. In fact, Wu Ming used magic similar to mental interference to slightly influence Sela and make her feel that this matter is normal. Shiro Amiya said, Brother. With a voice like an aureole, a young figure ran over from the living room. A child with red eyes, white skin, and long silver-white hair ran over. She was wearing a one-piece dress. Isn't that Mei Yu? Wu Ming saw the child and there was a slight disappointment in his eyes. Ilya, I'm back, Shiro Amiya said to Ilya. Well, welcome back, brother, Ilya said cutely. This Big Brother is? Ilya looked at Wu Ming and asked Shiro Amiya. Shiro Amiya told Ilya what Wu Ming said before. Ilya, who was still an elementary school student, didn't think too much about it. In addition, with Wu Ming's mental interference, Ilya didn't care. Hello, Big Brother. I'm Ilya Phil von Einstein Baron. Sure enough, it's the House of Einstein Barons. Seeing Wu Ming not speak, Shiro Amiya thought that Wu Ming was wondering why his surname was not the same as Ilya's. Then he explained, Brother, because I was adopted by Ilya's parents, I followed Ilya's father's surname Amiya. Wu Ming smiled. There's no need to explain. I just thought of my sister. I haven't seen her for a while and miss her a little. Does Big Brother also have a sister? Ilya asked. Chapter 130. That's right. She is a child as cute as you. If you two meet, I believe you two will definitely become good friends. Wu Ming said to Ilya with a smile. Ilya blushed from Wu Ming's praise and didn't say anything else. Afterward, Sela tidied up a room. Mr. Wu Ming, do you need any daily necessities? It's not too late now and I'm going out. I can help you buy them. Sela said gently. Just call me Wu Ming. We are about the same age. You are Shiro's guardian and I am Shiro's elder brother. You and I can address each other as equals. I'll have to trouble you with the daily necessities, Miss Sela. Wu Ming said very gently. Aya, how can I do that? Then I'll accept. Wu Ming, you can also call me Sela. The conversation between Wu Ming and Sela surprised Shiro Amiya and Ilya. After all, they had just met for less than an hour and they were actually so familiar with each other. Sela went out and Shiro Amiya went to the kitchen to prepare dinner. Wuming and Ilya went to the living room together. At this moment, Wuming discovered that a graceful woman was lying on the sofa in the living room. Her silver-white hair was lazily draped over her shoulders and her red pupils were bored to death watching TV. Her upper body was wearing a loose short-sleeved top that exposed her back and shoulders. Her voluptuous breasts were on the verge of popping out. Her lower body was only wearing a pair of denim shorts and her white thighs were exposed to the air. "Big sister Liz, a guest is here," Ilya reminded. After all, she also discovered that her big sister Liz's clothes were a bit revealing. "Oh, it's Ilya. What's wrong?" Liz said without turning her head, not caring that her spring scenery was seen by Wuming. "It's Big Brother Shiro's big brother. He wants to stay at our house for a few days," Ilya hurriedly said. She turned to look at Wuming, her emotionless eyes revealing a trace of curiosity. "Shiro's big brother? Welcome. Welcome." The rather cold voice didn't let Wuming know that it was welcoming him, but Wuming still smiled. "Nice to meet you, beautiful lady. Just call me Wuming." "Nice to meet you. My name is Lizelet." Lizelet turned her head back and continued watching the anime on the television. Elia's shoulders drooped helplessly as she cautiously said to Wuming, Big brother, don't mind her. That's just how Sister Lilith is." Facing Ilya's apologetic words, Wuming shook his head. "I don't mind. Rather, I should say that Miss Lizelet is very interesting." Is that so?"
"Big brother, as long as you're satisfied,"
Ilya said helplessly. "Okay, Ilya, I'm going to see if I can help Shiro. You can go do your own thing. There's no need to accompany me," Wuming said. "Big brother can cook too?"
Ilya raised her small head and asked.
"Of course. No matter what, I have a younger sister. How can I not practice my cooking skills?" Wuming said solemnly. Then, Wuming came to the kitchen. "Big brother, why are you here?" Shiro Amiya, who was wearing an apron, asked in surprise. "Of course, I'm here to cook tonight's dinner." Then, under Shiro Amiya's surprised gaze, Wuming and Shiro Amiya prepared dinner for today's house of Einstein Barons. When all the dishes were placed on the table, Ilya and Sela were stunned. Now, there were many exquisite dishes on the table. Just by looking at them and smelling them, the two of them had already fallen in love. Did Big Brother make all these?" Ilya asked with sparkling eyes. "Shiro and I made them together." Wuming smiled. Shiro Amiya was a little embarrassed. After all, although Shiro Amiya also made some dishes, Wuming made most of them. In fact, no one would feel that there was anything wrong with taking away Shiro Amiya's dishes. After all, compared to Wuming's cooking, Shiro Amiya's cooking was still too tender. "I'm the person in charge of taking care of Ilya's meals and Mayo's meals for so long. If I can't make such dishes, then the name of the root dragon will cry." That was what Wuming thought. But Wuming often slacked off when he was in Great Britain. He was often not in charge of Artoria's meals and often left it to Guy or Bedivere. However, Artoria could easily tell that Wuming didn't make the dishes, which led to her scolding Wuming angrily. On the other hand, Merlin liked to watch from the side with a smile. During the 5 years that he lived with Mei-yu and Shiro, Wuming would also specially make her favorite omelette rice for Mei-yu. But later on, he would let Shiro Amiya cook for her. Although Mei-yu didn't want to scold Wuming like Artoria, her disappointed expression made Wuming feel guilty. As a result, the dishes that Wuming made in the past 5 years were comparable to the dishes that he made for himself since he was born. After everyone started eating, Ilya, Sela, and Shiro Amiya's eyes lit up. Even Lizette looked at Wuming strangely. "It's not bad, right?" Wuming asked with a smile. "It's delicious," Ilya yelled. Hey, Big brother, why don't you stay at our house for a long time?" Ilya looked forward to it. "No, Ilya. How can you be so rude? You have to be a lady." Sela was still immersed in the sea of delicious food. After hearing Ilya's unladylike words, she instantly returned to her senses and lectured Ilya. I know, Mother Sela." Ilya looked at Sela with a headache. Shiro Amiya and Lizette looked at this mother and daughter, calmly as if it was a daily life in the house of Einstein Barons. "By the way, Wuming, you're really Shiro's big brother. You're also very good at cooking," Sela said. And Shiro, you too. You often cook by yourself and always compete with me for chores. I'm the nanny and guardian entrusted by Madam. How can you do this? Hearing Sella start lecturing Shiro Amiya, Ilya secretly sighed in relief. Wuming looked at the warm scene of this family. Sella kept lecturing, Shiro Amiya listened awkwardly. Ilya was glad that she got rid of Sella's lecturing, and Lizette kept stuffing food into her mouth without saying a word. She ate happily. If only Mei Yu was here. Just like that, dinner for the day in Einstein Barrens ended in a happy atmosphere. At night, everyone fell asleep. Wuming stood alone on the roof and looked at the bright moonlight shining on the earth. Mei Yu. Chapter 131. It had been some time since Wuming stayed at Ilya's house. On a certain weekend morning, Wuming brought the last portion of breakfast to the table. I'm going to eat, everyone said in unison, and then they began their journey of food. By the way, I found a place to stay in Winterwood City. I might move out tomorrow, Wuming suddenly said. There was silence at the table. Sella was the first to speak. I almost forgot. Wuming is clearly staying at our house. I completely treat Wuming as a member of our family. Shiro Amiya and Lizette both looked at Wuming without saying anything. Big brother, are you really leaving? Ilya looked pitifully at Wuming. During the time he lived with Ilya and the others, Wuming had already conquered the 4 people of the House of Einstein Barrens with his temperament, smile, personality, and other aspects. Especially Ilya. Because Wuming had a younger sister, Wuming was especially attractive to children, especially children of Ilya's age. He could win the hearts of children. To Ilya, Wuming is not only her older brother's big brother, but also her older brother. This person understands her thoughts, knows how to please her, is incomparably calm, treats everything with a sincere smile, cooks delicious food, and dotes on her even more than her adopted brother, Shiro Amiya. Ilya also forgot the fact that Wuming is only staying at their house. Wuming wanted to laugh at this matter that made everyone frown. I'm just not staying at this house. I didn't say that I won't come back in the future. After Wuming said this, everyone realized that Wuming said that he had found a place to stay in Winterwood City and didn't say that he was leaving. When everyone heard that Wuming wasn't staying here, they ignored what Wuming had said. Seeing that everyone was obviously relieved, Wuming smiled and said, I will come often, don't worry. Hey, big brother. Can we go to your house and take a look? Ilya asked. Sella also said, Yes, Wuming, you don't know anyone in Winterwood City. Even if you move into a new house, no one will celebrate. We can help you tidy up the house and celebrate. Seeing Shiro Amiya and Lizette nodding, Wuming looked at Sella and Ilya's expectant eyes and smiled. All right then. Yeah. That's great. Ilya jumped up in excitement. Ilya, be a lady. Be a lady. Yes, I know, Mama Sela. Everyone was once again amused by this common scene. On the edge of Winterwood City, which was originally a wasteland, a huge Japanese-style mansion appeared here. Ilya, Sella, Lizette, and Shiro looked at this scene with a dumbfounded expression. So amazing. When did such a building appear on the edge of Winterwood City? This is too big, everyone exclaimed. To the stunned crowd, Wuming opened the door of the mansion and said, So, are you still going to help me clean my room? Sella heard Wuming's teasing tone and immediately said, Of course, I'm the head maid of the House of Einstein Barrens. Such a small house can't stump me. As he spoke, he strode in with large strides. Mama Sela, don't tell me you really want to clean Big Brother's house. Ilya complained. With Aunt Sela's personality, she might really do that. Shiro Amiya wiped his cold sweat and smiled awkwardly. Lizette didn't say anything and walked in directly. Shiro Amiya and Ilya, who were worried about the two of them, also hurriedly walked in. Wuming wasn't in a hurry to go in. Wuming looked at this familiar house, and Wuming recalled the Amiya mansion in the other world. This Japanese-style mansion, which was somewhat similar to the Amiya mansion, was made by Wuming based on the Amiya mansion. Position creation. EXA's a magician, he could create a terrain that was advantageous to him in a short time. As long as there were materials, he could even create a shrine that had been worshipped before. Wuming used his ability as a caste to build this mansion on the first night he stayed at Ilya's house. It was Wuming's magic workshop. Because he was afraid of trouble, Wu Ming had set up a spiritual interference-type enchantment to create the illusion that a house was being built here for the passers-by. After estimating that it was about time, Wu Ming removed the barrier.
However, in the eyes of ordinary people, this was a mansion that had been built for a long time.
This place was originally the address of the Emiya mansion in the other world. At this moment, Wu Ming continued to use this address. If Mei Yu comes to this world, then I'll build a home for her, Wu Ming said. The two words Shua Yu were written on the doorplate next to the mansion's entrance. Wu Ming had reported his name as Shua Yu Wu Ming. Although Ilya and the others felt that it was a little strange, they still accepted it. After all, following the surname Emiya was a little special. Then, Wu Ming walked into the Shua Yu mansion. In the courtyard, Ilya and the others were shocked. As expected, big brother, you're very rich, Ilya suddenly asked. It's okay, but money is just a number to me. This was what Wu Ming, who had saved some gold bars in the other world, said. Moreover, Wu Ming didn't spend any money on this mansion. It was a magic workshop that was completely created out of thin air. Wu Ming had already solved the problems of the house deed and land deed with magic. Of course, the money that should be spent was still spent. I really couldn't tell. Is Wu Ming, Kuan so rich? Then how did you end up staying at our house? Sela asked in confusion. Wu Ming smiled in response. If it weren't for this, I wouldn't have known you. Well, that's true. Let's help Wu Ming, Kuan tidy up the house first. It must be very troublesome to tidy up such a big house. If we don't hurry, we won't be able to make it in time for dinner tonight, Sela said. Then, she began to tidy up the room with Ilya, Lizette, and Shiro Emiya. Wu Ming also helped from the side. In fact, Wu Ming brought the four to his house to test them. After all, whether it was Shiro Emiya or Ilya, the four of them all had excellent magic circuits. Now, it seemed that the four of them were really living as ordinary people. Soon, the five of them finished tidying up Wu Ming's mansion. Although the house is big, there is surprisingly nothing to tidy up, Shiro Emiya said. Well, after all, after this house was built, I only bought some furniture from the store. I don't have any luggage, so it looks like there are many rooms in the house, but in fact, there isn't much to tidy up, Wu Ming said. Then let's go make dinner. Ilya raised her small hand and said excitedly. You want to eat Wu Ming's cooking, right? Lizette complained. Ilya, who was exposed, blushed. Everyone laughed. Chapter 132. In the Shua Yu mansion, Wu Ming was the head chef, Shiro Emiya and Sela acted as assistants. A perfect and sumptuous meal appeared on the table. Ilya couldn't wait to pick up a piece of meat and then had a look of enjoyment on her face. Aha! Big brother's cooking is as delicious as always. Wu Ming picked up vegetables and put them in Ilya's bowl. Then he smiled and said, Eat more if it's delicious. After all, you won't be able to eat my cooking every day in the future. After hearing Wu Ming's words, Ilya had a gloomy expression. Really, if only Big Brother was a member of our family. Shiro Emiya and Sela also nodded. As if thinking of something, a sly glint flashed in her vermilion eyes. Then she pretended to casually say, If only Wu Ming and Sela could get married. Sela was like a cat whose hair stood on end. What are you talking about, Lizette? How is it possible to get married? Looking at the blushing Sela, the corner of Lizette's mouth curved up slightly. But, Sela, aren't you already at the age of marriage? It just so happens that Shiro's big brother is about the same age as you. He's young, rich, gentle, and considerate. He can take care of the house and cook. His cooking is enough to support you. Don't miss this opportunity. After hearing Sela's words, Shiro Emiya and the blushing Ilya also reacted. Young, handsome, gentle, considerate, and elegant. He has such a big house and doesn't lack money. Most importantly, he can cook well. So Big Brother is this outstanding. That was the thought of the two at this moment. Even Sela, who was blushing and stuttering, had a hesitant expression. She looked at Wu Ming with uncertain eyes. This made Wu Ming feel a little awkward. Wu Ming knew himself well. Although his current personality wasn't bad, it was still somewhat different from Wu Ming's original personality. After all, The current Hyunryong caster's body had such a gentle and considerate character. Even the skills had a bit of favorability bonus. Wuming's original calm, bold, and decisive personality as a problem child could no longer be seen. The point was that Wuming knew that she was joking. After spending so many days together, apart from Shiro Amiya whose personality hadn't changed much, Wuming understood Sella, Ilya, and Ligerite very well. She usually looked weak and listless, but in reality, she was very good at finding entertainment for herself. Take Sella for example. During the days that Wuming stayed at Ilya's house, he had seen Sella being teased by Lilith more than once. Therefore, Wuming coughed for the embarrassment caused by this little demon-like girl. Ahem, I will also go to your house on weekdays. Please rest assured. Although he said that, he still finished the meal awkwardly. Before leaving, Wuming stood outside his house, and Ilya and the others stood in front of Wuming. Then we will go first, Sella said. Although Sella still blushed when she looked at Wuming at the moment. Well, please be careful on the road, Shiro. As a man, you must protect others. Shiro Amiya smiled and then said to Wuming, Winterwood City is usually very safe. In this regard, Wuming looked at Shiro Amiya with a brother, I am very disappointed look. Shiro Amiya smiled awkwardly. Big brother, you have to come often. Ilya looked at Wuming expectantly. Wuming squatted down, touched Ilya's head and said, I will. Watching the four figures disappear into the distance, Wuming didn't prepare to return to the house until the four figures disappeared around the corner. At this moment, a magical fluctuation came. Wuming didn't stay idle these days. He went out in the name of work and set up some detection-type enchantments in Winterwood City, which were specially set up to detect magical fluctuations. Among the tactics that Wuming had set up, the only thing that could cause a fluctuation was a class card. Did it appear? Class cards. Wuming jumped onto the roof and went to the place where the class cards were. On the other half of the Winterwood Bridge, Wuming walked over. Wuming walked to a place and looked for the center of the mirror world. Is it here, Collis? Wuming stood on a flat ground and said to Collis. Yes, master. You can now teleport to the mirror world through a special spell. The golden-green dragon horn headdress appeared. Well, let's get started. Then, a special magic circle appeared under Wuming's feet. The magic array spun and changed continuously. Suddenly, a flash of light appeared, and silent wonder disappeared from where he stood. At this moment, Wuming had entered the mirror world. Almost after a few minutes, a spell reappeared in the same place. Wuming appeared in the same place with a light. There was no change, no embarrassment, but he was holding a card in his hand. The mysterious old man was wearing a hooded robe, with a white beard to his waist, holding a staff and a magic book. This was the same caster class card as Wuming. Wuming looked at the caster class card and said, Sure enough, this is indeed the class card I encountered in another world. After Wuming entered the mirror world, he met a purple-haired woman wearing a magic robe and holding a magic wand. At a glance, Wuming could tell that the other party's uniform was the same as the heroic spirit state that Atlam had used that day. In order to find out the other party's real name, Wuming deliberately entangled with the other party for a while. Wuming was not afraid of the other party's trump card. Wuming had already taken out his mythical Yggdrasil. As the same level of existence as Giebog, although Wuming's mythical Yggdrasil didn't have the effect of the heart attack, as an army-level noble phantasm, caster, who didn't even have a magic workshop, was nothing to be afraid of. Yes, after the appearance of the caster class card, Wuming came here for the first time. Caster in the mirror world didn't even have time to prepare a magic workshop. Wuming directly found him. After releasing a lot of kamikaze magic, Caster was forced by Wuming to take out his noble phantasm. After Wuming revealed his real name, Wuming easily defeated Caster. So that's how it is. No wonder you can use so many kamikaze magic. You deserve to be the legendary traitor Demetrius. Yes, the real name of Wuming's card was Demetrius, the one who was once feared and pitiful. Chapter 133. Demetrius, the traitor witch, existed in Greek mythology. The princess of Colchis, because of the curse of the goddess of beauty Aphrodite, fell in love with the leader of the hero ship Argo, Aeson's curse. In order to find the golden fleece, she betrayed her motherland, and killed her brother who came to find her, and cut him into 8 pieces. In the end, because of Isen's betrayal, she killed Isen's new love and her 2 biological sons. As the betrayal witch, Demetrius had her life's materialization noble artifact, Rule Breaker Talisman, Rule Breaker. The effect of the Rule Breaker rune was to return all magic spells that lasted for a certain period of time to their original state before the spell was cast. In short, it was to break all magic and return all magic to its original state. It was also because Wuming released a lot of magic that Demetrius took out Rule Breaker Talisman, which allowed Wuming to recognize the other party's real name. It's just that the appearance of the class card is a bit abnormal. That's right, Wu Ming had asked Bazette about the time when the 2 class cards would appear. The difference between the 2 was almost 2 months, but the time when Wu Ming appeared was a month. Now the time when the caster class card appeared was more than half a month. Wu Ming felt that the remaining 4 class cards were likely to appear together. Well, let's talk about it later. After that, Wu Ming directly opened the portal and walked in. The night continued quietly like this. The next day, Wu Ming got up early and began the meditation at the beginning of the day. Almost an hour later, Wu Ming's door was knocked. Wu Ming opened his eyes and projected the view in front of the door in front of him.
Ilya,
Wu Ming said in confusion. Yes, it was Ilya standing in front of his door. Wu Ming got up and quickly walked to the door. After opening the door, Ilya said happily, "Big brother." "Ilya? Are you the only one who came here?" Wu Ming looked at Ilya first, then looked around and found that there was no one else. "Well, I'm the only one here," Ilya replied. In this regard, Wu Ming frowned and then said, "That won't do, Ilya, although my home is very close to yours, because my home is on the edge of Winterwood City, try not to come alone in the future. At least find someone to accompany you." "I'm sorry, I won't do it again," Ilya said with a blush.
"Well, Ilya, why are you free to come to me today?"
Wu Ming responded to Ilya and asked. Ilya was somewhat unhappy. She puffed up her cheeks and looked at Wu Ming somewhat angrily. "Really, Big Brother said that he would take me to the amusement park at the end of this week. Big Brother wants to go back on his word?" Only then did Wu Ming recall that he had indeed said this sentence. It was an afternoon almost a week ago. Wu Ming drank afternoon tea and leisurely watched TV. Ilya came back from school, looking a little listless. Wu Ming immediately saw that Ilya was in a bad mood. As a member of the family, Wu Ming asked, "What's wrong, Ilya?" Ilya said unhappily, "I fell asleep in class today and was lectured by the teacher." Wu Ming recalled that last night, he and Ilya were playing with the high-level jigsaw puzzle that he had just bought. There were a total of 20,000 jigsaw puzzles. With Wu Ming's wisdom and Ilya's hard work, the two finally finished the jigsaw puzzle around 12 o'clock. Because Wu Ming wanted to deliberately hide his inhuman characteristics, he did not put much effort into the jigsaw puzzle. These jigsaw puzzles were basically put together by Wu Ming, who kept reminding Ilya. This led to Ilya's lack of energy and also led to Ilya being reprimanded by the teacher. So when she returned home, she looked unhappy. Sorry, it's all my fault. How about this? I'll invite Ilya to play at the amusement park next weekend. How about it?" Wu Ming quickly said with an apologetic smile. "Really? Long live Big Brother." Ilya happily hugged Wu Ming and shouted. This loud voice attracted the attention of Sela, who had the goal of cultivating Ilya into a virtuous lady. "Ilya, don't be so loud at home. Be a virtuous lady, understand?" Sela ran out of the kitchen and began lecturing Ilya without changing her clothes. Although it was called lecturing, in fact, she was gently advising. This was different from Shiro Amiya. When dealing with Shiro Amiya, Sela was as strict as possible, making Shiro Amiya extremely embarrassed. After regaining his senses, Wu Ming said, "Sorry, Ilya, I forgot about it because of work." "Really? How could you forget? I've been looking forward to going to the amusement park alone with Big Brother for a long time." Ilya's face was a little red as she spoke. "How about this, Ilya? You sit in my house for a while. How about it?" "Okay." Ilya was obediently led by Wu Ming to the edge of the courtyard. Ilya sat on the edge, while Wu Ming went into the house to prepare. Soon, Wu Ming stood behind Ilya fully armed. Wu Ming said, "Let's go, Ilya." Ilya turned her head and nodded heavily. "Okay, let's hurry up and set off." Soon, Wu Ming brought Ilya to Winterwood City's amusement park and found that it was not bad. After buying the tickets to the amusement park, Wu-ming held Ilya's little hand and walked into the amusement park. What do you want to do first, Ilya? Wu-ming asked Ilya.
Ilya pointed at the merry-go-round not far away and said happily, "Let's play this first."
Then, Ilya pulled Wu-ming's hand to the side of the merry-go-round and began a day of fun. Wu-ming and Ilya had played almost all the facilities in the amusement park. They had basically played pirate ships, haunted houses, bumper cars, merry-go-round, Ferris wheels, and so on. Ilya had lunch in the amusement park's restaurant and looked a little dissatisfied. As expected, after getting used to Big Brother's cooking, I can't taste these dishes that were originally delicious, Ilya said as she ate. These dishes are already very delicious. It's not bad to change the taste occasionally, Wu-ming said from the side. That's right, Big Brother. Tell me about your past. Ilya's little face revealed an expectant expression. Past. Let me think about it. Only then did Wu-ming recall that he could be said to have many adventures now. It was enough to publish a book.
In the beginning, there was a young man called Wu-ming.
Chapter 134. Wu-ming adapted what he had experienced and told Ilya the adventure story of an ordinary person. When he finished, it was almost evening. It's already so late. Let's go back, Ilya. Wu-ming patted Ilya's head. Okay. Ilya and Wu-ming held hands and walked out of the amusement park together. On the way, Ilya revealed a happy expression.
Big Brother, your experience is really good, amazing.
Big Brother, are you an adventurer? Ilya asked. Kind of. I like to travel around. In an instant, Ilya revealed an envious and yearning expression. That's great. Mama Sila doesn't let me do anything exciting. I really envy Big Brother. After hearing Ilya's words, Wu-ming patted Ilya's head and smiled. This is because Sila has to think about your safety. Adventure is not a simple thing. It's full of danger everywhere. That's why I said that you should just be a good primary school student. Ilya, whose head was patted by Wu-ming, turned her little head unhappily. I know. Seeing Ilya like this, Wu-ming smiled. If there's a chance next time, I'll take you on an adventure, Ilya. Ilya's expression changed from depressed to expectant. Really? That's great. Ilya hugged Wu-ming happily. Then, while the two chatted, Wu-ming and Ilya arrived in front of the house of Einstein Barons. At the corner not far in front of the house, a tomboy was looking here. Bazette. Wu-ming narrowed his eyes. Originally, Wu-ming wanted to cook dinner at Ilya's house according to her wishes, but Bazette's arrival seemed to indicate that something had happened. Sorry, Ilya, I just remembered that I have something important to do. I can't go to your house. You can go back first. They had clearly arrived at Ilya's doorstep, but Wu-ming said that he had something to do. However, Ilya wasn't an unreasonable person. In her opinion, since Big Brother said that there was something, then there must be something. All right then. Goodbye, Big Brother. You must come again next time. After waving goodbye to Ilya, Wu-ming walked to Bazette's seat. Did something happen? Wu-ming asked. Bazette simply nodded and said, The card you gave me has been discovered. Wu-ming was stunned for a moment, then he said, It's Zelik, right? Bazette nodded again. Yes. Wu-ming shook his head in surprise. That old man is quite impressive. Just how many parallel worlds has he connected to? Wu-ming smiled and mumbled to himself. Bazette didn't say anything. First, it was because Bazette couldn't understand what Wu-ming said. Second, even if Bazette could understand, it had nothing to do with her. She was only here to pass on the message. That sir has asked you to go, Bazette said. Understood. I'll go now. After saying that, Wu-ming opened the teleportation gate and walked in under Bazette's shocked gaze. Suddenly, Wu-ming's head stretched out from the pitch-black and red teleportation gate. Do you want to come together? Bazette was silent, but he still looked at Wu-ming with a look of resistance. Wu-ming faintly smiled and grabbed Bazette.
Wah! Bazette let out a panicked scream. Far away on the other side of the continent, in the upper floor of the clock tower in England, outside Zelika's door, a pitch-black and red teleportation gate appeared. Wu-ming pulled Bazette's arm and walked out of the teleportation gate. You're really clumsy,
Wu Ming commented. Bazette's face was a little red as he stared fiercely at Wu Ming. In response to Bazette's stare, Wu Ming shrugged and then walked into Zelika's room. Bang!
Following the sound of the door closing, only Bazette was left in the hallway.
After tidying up his clothes, Bazette left as well. In the room, Wu Ming walked to the sofa and sat down. Finally, he poured himself a cup of tea.
You're really self-conscious, Hyunryong. The old man sitting on the chair in the dim room laughed.
It's your face every time. Even if you don't find it annoying, I do. Wu Ming looked at Zelik with disdain.
Ha ha ha, I was a popular man when I was young.
Zelik laughed. Wu Ming understood the old man's character. He couldn't help it. He met him once in every world. He couldn't not understand him. You know what's going on with the class card, right? Zelik said.
Well, after all, this is also something that I contributed to.
Wu Ming took a sip of tea and said, Why, Gem Wu Ming wants to study it. Just in time. I have a caster class card here. Wu Ming said as he took out a card.
Zelik smiled and said, I'm not interested in this, but some people in the clock tower are interested in the class card, so they sent Mark Remus to collect the class card.
What do you mean? Wu Ming asked. I don't have anything that you want. How about this? I'll give you this, and you stop collecting the class card.
Later, Zelik took out a suitcase, which seemed to contain very valuable items because the suitcase was surrounded by various charms. Zelik opened the suitcase and revealed the items inside.
This is... Wu Ming was surprised.
Inside the suitcase was a clay plate, and the clay plate was full of ancient aura.
This is the clay plate excavated from the Two Rivers Basin.
Not to mention that the clay plate has the quality of a holy relic, it also contains the magic of the gods.
It is a rare original magic book.
This made Wu Ming think carefully. You know, the original magic book is also a very powerful tool for Wu Ming, and it can also be used as a holy relic. Wu Ming speculated that if he summoned it with his own affinity, it must be the Hero King.
Deal. After a while, Wu Ming left Zelika's office. Wu Ming returned to the Shua Yu house through the portal.
Before that, Wu Ming wanted to give the caster class card to Zelik, but Zelik said, I'll leave it with you first.
Since people have said so, Wu Ming will not be unreasonable.
According to Zelik, in about a week, Zelik will send people from the clock tower to Winterwood City again. The world of the class cards mentioned by Zelik has been estimated, almost a week later, so the rest of the class cards will appear. Zelik asked Wu Ming to help the magician who was sent to recover the cards. First, Zelik didn't want the cards to fall into the hands of the clock tower's higher-ups who were not too good.
Second, Zelik hoped to train the magician who was sent.
Only the magician who came to support the recovery of the cards. Well, it has nothing to do with me anyway.
Wu Ming threw the card casually, and the card fell into the golden ripples. Wu Ming turned and returned to the house. Chapter 135.
A week later, Wu Ming sat in the yard and meditated every day. After a while, Wu Ming exhaled softly and then opened his eyes. All the rank cards have appeared, Wu Ming thought. Because the place where the rank cards appeared was the location of Winterwood City's small spiritual veins. Wu Ming's detection technique near the spiritual veins in Winterwood City had almost been destroyed by the rank cards. This proved that the remaining 4 rank cards had all appeared. Moreover, because Zelik was going, Wu Ming put the caster rank card back in the position next to the Winterwood Bridge, so that the caster rank card reappeared. This was also a cover-up. After all, only Wu Ming and Zelik knew that the caster rank card had been recycled. Even Bazette, who had recycled 2 rank cards, did not know that the caster rank card had appeared and was recycled by Wu Ming. Since Wu Ming's purpose at the moment was to find Mei Yu, it could be said that Wu Ming had single-handedly contributed to the emergence of the rank cards. I hope that Mei Yu will appear after the rank cards appear.
Wu Ming sighed.
In the 5 years of living with Mei Yu, it seemed that Mei Yu could do anything and seemed to be a genius child, but Wu Ming knew that this was just the result of Mei Yu's own efforts. Because of Mei Yu's request, Wu Ming even bought college-type books home, and Mei Yu read them all. Mei Yu was very smart, really smart, but because of her childhood experience, Mei Yu's emotional loss. Mei Yu was really not good at dealing with people, the ways of the world and so on. This was why Wu Ming was worried about Mei Yu.
Wu Ming got up and was ready to meet the magician who was responsible for the recycling of the rank cards recommended by Zelik. Because there were no disasters, Winterwood City developed very quickly. As for why there were no buildings in the open space in front of the Shuayu residence, it was purely because there was a mountain here, and there were no economic benefits to be taken advantage of. The developer was secretly very grateful to Wu Ming for buying this land. On the other side of Winterwood City was the Winterwood City Airport. Wu Ming used the Loon Rune to make himself invisible. He stood on a tall building and looked at the airport exit. Soon, a girl in red and a girl in blue entered Wu Ming's sight. Her red hair was loose, and there were 2 ponytails in her loose hair. Her eyes were green, and she wore a red top and a black short skirt. Black knee socks wrapped around her healthy and beautiful thighs, revealing her fair and absolute territory. Blue had a head of golden curly hair that was adorned with pale blue ribbons. She wore a blue gown that made people's eyes light up. Her fair skin was set off by the blue gown, and her eyes were like amber gems. She was constantly emitting an elegant aura. The reason why Wu Ming believed that this person was the magician who came to recycle the rank cards was because of the lapis lazuli Collis barrel. Collis was the most advanced magic dress made by Zelik. With the existence of artificial spirits, Collis, who sacrificed her attack and focused on assisting, easily felt the existence of her own kind.
Master, those 2 humans have my kind on them.
Collis, are you saying that they have the magic dress made by Zelik?
Wu Ming said against the wind.
Yes, Master.
Then Wu Ming looked at the 2 girls more attentively.
To be able to make Zelik take out the most advanced magic dress, Zelik really values these 2 girls.
However,
Wu Ming smiled and continued, it's just that these 2 don't have a good relationship. Collis, there's a good show to watch.
I don't think there will be a good show.
You're still as bad as ever, Master.
Collis complained.
Well, what's wrong with that? It's a good opportunity to understand their methods. With that, Wu Ming disappeared through a portal. On the other side, Rin and Osaka and Luvia walked side by side on the road, pulling their suitcases. The 2 of them glared at each other. What a remote place, Rin and Osaka. Luvia, who was wearing a blue dress, mocked him elegantly. Humph. If you don't like it, you can leave, Luvia Sarinta Eiderfelt.
Rin and Osaka said fiercely.
Oh, I forgot. Barbarians don't fit in here. This time, it was Rin and Osaka's turn to mock. Of course I won't fit in your monkey country. Luvia glared. At this moment, a frivolous female voice came from Rin and Osaka's suitcase. Aya, why are you 2 fighting again? You were at the airport just now, and now you're fighting again. Shut up, Ruby.
Rin and Osaka roared. It's all this barbarian's fault.
What? You're just a monkey. It's clearly your fault. Luvia also roared.
The noble aura that the 2 of them had instantly disappeared, as if they had been beaten back to their original selves.
Seriously, you 2 are going to work together to recover the rank cards. You have to get along well. The voice called Ruby came from Rin and Osaka's suitcase again. My sister is right, Luvia, Sama. Please maintain a good relationship with Rin, Sama. A female voice also came from Luvia's suitcase. However, this voice was more cold and steady. Ha! Maintain a good relationship. What are you talking about, Sapphire? I don't want it. Exactly. Who wants to maintain a good relationship with a barbarian?
Their words became more and more heated.
Then Rin and Osaka said, if that's the case, then we'll have to fight. Luvia nodded. Looks like this is the only way to tame this monkey.
Then the 2 of them waved their hands and shouted, Transform!
Then, what happened next shocked even Wu Ming, who was secretly following behind them. 2 magic wands flew out from their suitcases and landed in Rin and Osaka's and Luvia's hands. Then, Rin and Osaka and Luvia's bodies began to glow. When the glow dissipated, their clothes became animal-like magical girl costumes. Then, the 2 of them flew into the sky and began their battle of magical girl costumes. Wu Ming, on the other hand, revealed himself and looked at the 2 people flying into the sky in a daze. What's this? Magical girl? Then, as if he remembered something, Wu Ming quickly asked, Collis, don't tell me you can transform the user too? Collis was silent.
Wu-Ming covered his face and said shamefully, I knew it. Zelik, that old fox, wouldn't let me take advantage of him. Then, Wu-Ming used the invisibility rune again, entered the invisible state, and flew up into the sky.
Chapter 136. Rin and Osaka and Luvia continued to attack. Magic bullets danced in the air, occasionally engaging in close-range combat. Although it was beautiful, these attacks weren't that simple. Zelrich's magic attire could make an ordinary person comparable to a first-rate magician. Just from this alone, it was enough to see the power of rubies and sapphires. Wu-Ming was a little bored, and after a while, Luvia found an opportunity to hit Rin and Osaka. Although Rin and Osaka wasn't injured because of the ruby's protection, his face was still covered in dust. The ruby on his hand said so. I've been using protection all the time, but at this distance, I can't block all the attacks.
Luvia laughed and mocked. Oh, ha ha ha, you better disappear quickly, Rin and Osaka.
Rin and Osaka said with a suppressed voice. Is that so?
I can understand your feelings in that case. Then, Rin and Osaka took out a card with an archer's face on it.
Let's use this to decide the winner. Luvia's eyes narrowed as well. She then took out her class card as well. There was a ranger holding a gun on it. Come on then. The two of them raised their staffs at the same time and stuck their class cards onto their staffs as they yelled out. Class card, Archer, Archer. Include. Class card, Lancer, Lancer. Include. Just when Wu-Ming thought something would happen, nothing happened. Except for the awkwardness. Hey, Ruby, what's going on? Rin Enbin grabbed the ruby in confusion and poked it with his rank card. Luvia was also puzzled and asked Sapphire, What's going on, Sapphire? Aya, that's about enough, you two. The wings on the ruby's staff were like an anthropomorphic figure, making a helpless gesture. The reason why Master gave you the starry staff is because he wants you to work together to recover the class card. Luvia, who didn't get along with Rin and Osaka, wouldn't let go of this opportunity to mock Rin and Osaka. Oh ho ho, serves him right. Rin Tozaka. He was taught a lesson by his own magic staff. Luvia cackled in the style of a queen. It seems that I'm the only one qualified to hold the starry wand.
Luvia had a smug look on her face.
No, Lady Luvia is the same. Sapphire suddenly said. What? Luvia asked in surprise.
In view of Lord Luvia's attitude towards the mission as if no one else was present, I already believe that Lord Luvia has lost the qualifications to become the master.
What are you talking about? Sapphire. Luvia stared at Sapphire in disbelief. Naturally, Rin and Osaka, who didn't like Luvia, wouldn't let this opportunity slip by. Heh, who was the one who said he was qualified? How interesting.
Rin and Osaka mocked.
Shut up. Luvia's face was filled with indignation.
At this moment, the ruby in Rin Enbin's hand said, Anyway, that's it.
Then, Ruby and Sapphire pulled the two of them away from their hands. Please forgive us for acting on our own initiative. Please allow us to leave for a while. Ruby and Sapphire said together. Damn it, get back here. A mere wand dares to defy its master. Rin and Osaka said in exasperation. Ha ha. I'm so sorry. Miss Rin is no longer my master. Ruby made a frivolous sound. You bastard. I'll never let you go, Sapphire. Luvia said in exasperation. I'm so sorry, original master. Oh right. Ruby reminded them. You've already exited your transformation state. If you don't think of a way, you'll fall. Ruby said cheerfully. At this moment, Rin and Osaka and Luvia realized that their clothes had returned to their original state. Wawa dash. Rin and Osaka and Luvia cried out in pain as they fell. A scream resounded through the sky. Ruby flapped her wings and said, Take care. Then Ruby and Sapphire left. Wu-Ming appeared and shook his head with a smile. What a pair of clowns, whether it's the wands or the magician. What do you think, Collis? Wu-Ming asked Collis. Although it's necessary to determine if the user has the qualifications to be a master, it's too dangerous for the user to deactivate their transformation in the air. Collis's cold voice sounded. If Collis thinks that I don't have the qualifications, will she also leave me? Wu-Ming asked. No, master. You're Colossus's master for life. This won't change. Colossus replied in an anxious voice. I know. I just wanted to see Colossus's anxious face. After all, you've shown too little of your feelings. Wu Ming smiled. In the past 5 years, Wu Ming had already improved Colossus's favorability. Wu Ming didn't treat Colossus as a tool, but as a life. That's why Colossus was so loyal to Wu Ming. In fact, even if Colossus wanted to leave Wu Ming, it was impossible. The magic costume Colossus had been completely transformed into Wu Ming's noble phantasm. Therefore, the master-servant relationship might be forever.
You're still as bad as ever, master.
Colossus's cold voice returned. Sorry. Wu Ming smiled. At that time, the residual detection technique Wu Ming set up in Winterwood City worked.
This is...
Wu Ming was a little excited and flew to that place at a very fast speed. A little girl was walking on the road. Because her clothes were thin, the little girl found a piece of clothes in the garbage on the side of the road. The little girl didn't dislike it and put it on directly. Looking at the strange and familiar place, the little girl was a little lost. Brother Wu Ming. Brother Shiro. The little girl couldn't help but think of her 2 brothers. Although Mei Yu was sad, she was still strong enough not to cry. After Shiro Amiya made a wish, Mei Yu had already come to this world when she opened her eyes. Mei Yu thought about Shiro Amiya's last move. As if he noticed something, Shiro Amiya was a little shocked, and then he reacted. Mei Yu, my brother asked me to tell you that I'm sorry. We'll be separated for a while. Then, Shiro Amiya directly used the spell on the scroll given by Wu Ming and made a wish. In Mei Yu's eyes, Shiro Amiya directly made a wish, then resolutely turned around and left. Mei Yu, who hadn't figured out what happened, came to this strange world.
Mei Yu!
Then an excited voice came. Chapter 137.
Mei Yu!
Following an emotional voice, Mei Yu raised her head. A warm embrace embraced Mei Yu.
Wu!
Brother Wu Ming.
Mei Yu said in disbelief as she raised her head.
Mei Yu, who had always been strong and not shed tears, actually shed tears at this moment. After all, a second ago, they were told to be apart for a while. After preparing herself, they met again in the next second. This was hard for a 10-year-old child to accept. I'm sorry, Mei Yu, I've made you suffer. Wu Ming said with some heartache. Then, he wiped away Mei Yu's tears with his hand. It's okay, Brother Wu Ming still found me in the end. Mei Yu shook her head. Wu Ming hugged Mei Yu tightly with self-reproach. Looking at Mei Yu's old and smelly coat, Wu Ming could imagine. A little girl, who had no relatives or friends in this world, appeared on the streets in thin clothes. In order to not let her body feel cold, the little girl dug out old clothes from the trash and put them on. After all, Mei Yu was a weak little girl. Wu Ming didn't teach Mei Yu magic. Firstly, it was to let Mei Yu have a stable life. Secondly, Mei Yu didn't like magic. Fortunately, there were no human traffickers in Winterwood City. If Mei Yu was kidnapped by human traffickers and something happened to her, Wu Ming might destroy this world. There was no doubt that Wu Ming could do such a thing. As the origin dragon from the Great Origin, Wu Ming had the confidence and the determination to destroy everything for Mei Yu. After all, she was a sister. She was meant to be loved. How could he let his sister suffer? Wu Ming gently took off Mei Yu's old clothes and put his clothes on Mei Yu. Then, Wu Ming picked up Mei Yu and said, Let's go, Mei Yu. Let's go home.
Mei Yu's eyes widened.
Home? Yes, a home that only belongs to us. Wu Ming smiled and nodded. Wu Ming immediately opened a portal and brought Mei Yu to the Shua Yu residence. Where the 2 of them were originally standing, a magic wand appeared. The wand lingered on the spot where Wu Ming was standing. Then, as if it had found something, the magic wand immediately turned and headed in a certain direction. Wu Ming took a bath with Mei Yu and gave her a new set of clothes. Then, under Wu Ming's care, Mei Yu fell asleep peacefully. Wu Ming walked out of the room. Looks like Mei Yu is really tired.
She fell asleep as soon as I started telling her the story.
Wu Ming had just started telling Mei Yu the story when he noticed that Mei Yu's breathing had stabilized. After testing, Miss Mei Yu's mental state has gone through ups and downs. It's not strange for her to have this kind of situation. Collis explained. I know. But I'm still worried about Mei Yu. Wu Ming sighed and said. Wu Ming was still blaming himself. If only I didn't go and watch the fight between Rin Tasaka and Livia. If only I had discovered Mei Yu earlier. If only I didn't find it troublesome to set up an all-around detection tactic in Fuyuki City. Wu Ming kept blaming himself. After all, when he first saw Mei Yu, Mei Yu's expression was something that Wu Ming would never forget. Shaking his head, Wu Ming decided not to think about it. After all, Mei Yu was back. Wu Ming wouldn't let Mei Yu suffer anymore. Alright, since it's still early, let's buy some daily necessities and ingredients for Mei Yu. As he spoke, Wu Ming walked out of the Shuayu mansion. At this moment, a blue magic staff arrived outside the Shuayu mansion. This is a magic workshop? Who built such a large and powerful magic workshop? Blue Baisher said. We have to go in first. Then, Sapphire began to analyze the barriers outside the Shuayu mansion. Because of Mei Yu's arrival, the Shuayu residence was opened by Wu Ming with 7 major barriers and 21 minor barriers. A total of 28 barriers formed a grand barrier. Even if Blue Baisher had the highest level of magic attire, without an owner, he wouldn't be able to decipher the barrier. Moreover, even if he had an owner, he might not be able to decipher the barrier. However, if Sapphire was given time, she might be able to decipher it. However, there wasn't enough time. Wu Ming hid his presence and hovered in the air, watching Sapphire's every move. As soon as Sapphire arrived near the Shuayu mansion, Wu Ming had already noticed. Because Wu Ming knew that the starry staff meant no harm, Wu Ming didn't stop it. Wu Ming's magic workshop wasn't like other magicians. If it wasn't invaded, it wouldn't be discovered. The magic workshop had already set up a detection tactic in the 1,000 meters surrounding the Shuayu mansion. Under Wu Ming's instructions, Sapphire quickly opened an entrance to the Shuayu mansion. Otherwise, with Sapphire's current condition, it might take a long time to decipher the barrier. Then, Sapphire flew in. Are you looking for Mei Yu to be your new owner? Wu Ming said. Wu Ming thought about it and decided to let Mei Yu make the decision. Wu Ming now understood that he couldn't always be by Mei Yu's side. Mei Yu had to strengthen herself. Even in this peaceful world, Mei Yu had to at least be able to protect herself. Wu Ming no longer paid attention to the Shuayu mansion situation and left. After a while, Wu Ming returned with some purchased items. Wu Ming walked into the house and put down various ingredients and daily necessities. Wu Ming turned his head and looked at Mei Yu, who was hiding outside the door. Don't hide. I found you long ago. Wu Ming had surveillance of every corner of the Shuayu mansion. Even a fly could be found accurately. Of course, that was if the fly could enter. Brother Wu Ming. Mei Yu walked in a little embarrassed. At this moment, Mei Yu's clothes had changed drastically. Mei Yu held a sapphire wand in her hand. She was wearing a light blue-purple outfit, like a primary school student swimsuit. She wore knee-high boots on her legs and a black feathery skirt on her waist. A small white cape extended from her back. She looked like a little elf. Not bad, Mei Yu. It suits you very well. Wu Ming said with a smile. No. Brother Wu Ming, don't make fun of me. Mei Yu said with a red face. Why would I? Wu Ming walked in front of Mei Yu and squatted down. Why would a brother make fun of a sister? And Wu Ming looked firmly into Mei Yu's eyes and said, Have you decided? Mei Yu's face was no longer red. She met Wu Ming's eyes. Then Mei Yu's little head firmly nodded. Yes, I've decided, Brother Wu Ming. Wu Ming smiled. That's good. Mei Yu, you have to remember that no matter what you choose, I will always be your strong backing. Thank you, Brother Wu Ming. Mei Yu hugged Wu Ming and said gently. Wu Ming hugged Mei Yu with both hands and quietly enjoyed this moment of peace. Chapter 138. The next day, Wu Ming suggested that they go to the place where the cards were stored to retrieve them, but Sapphire objected. I think Lady Mei Yu should look for Lady Livia. Lady Livia is the Great Master's personal staff to retrieve the cards, so she's very familiar with them. However, Wu Ming said, I don't think that little girl can teach Mei Yu anything. In the end, Mei Yu decided to look for Livia, whom she had never met before. After all, according to Sapphire, Luvia might still be looking for Sapphire at this moment. All right, then Mei Yu should go. Wu-Ming looked as though he wanted to come back early. Brother Wu-Ming isn't coming with me? Mei Yu was puzzled. Mei Yu. Wu-Ming looked at Mei Yu seriously. It was rare for him to be so serious. Yes. Mei Yu looked at Wu-Ming nervously. You should know that you're a magical girl now. You need to learn to be independent, so I won't help you this time. This is your own choice. Wu-Ming said seriously. Yes. I understand, Brother Wu-Ming. Mei Yu replied seriously. Then, Mei Yu left the house as though she was stepping onto a battlefield. As soon as Mei Yu left, Wu-Ming heaved a sigh of relief. It's better if I don't show myself. Then, because he was still worried about Mei Yu, Wu-Ming used an invisibility spell and quietly followed behind Mei Yu. Because she didn't find Sapphire, Luvia rested for a night and started looking for Sapphire again. Damn it! Sapphire's family, where did they go? Luvia said angrily. Are you Luvia? Suddenly, a little girl's voice sounded in Luvia's ears.
Luvia turned her head and saw a black-haired girl of about 10 years old standing not far away.
That's right. I'm Luvia. Who are you, little sister? How do you know me? Luvia asked in an amiable manner. Wu-Ming, who was following behind, saw this scene and the corner of his mouth twitched. As long as Rin and Osaka wasn't around, Luvia was always very elegant. Lady Luvia. Sapphire appeared behind Mei Yu and bowed to Luvia. So you're here. Sapphire, hurry up and come back with me. Luvia said angrily, as if she had just seen a worried child. I'm very sorry, Madam Luvia. My current master is Mei Yu. Sapphire said politely and pointed at Mei Yu like a human. As if she had accepted her fate, Luvia rubbed her forehead in distress and said, Really, Sapphire, how could you drag a normal person into this? Because Lady Luvia and Lady Ling both ignored the mission. This is something that can't be helped, Sapphire said calmly. Regarding the matter of retrieving the rank cards, I'm willing to do it. At this moment, Mayo's voice was heard. Rather than leaving it like this, it's better to give these rank cards to you. Mei Yu said with some pain. Oh, looks like you're not a normal person. Luvia squinted her eyes. I'll help you retrieve the rank cards and you're not allowed to ask about me. How about it? Luvia looked at Mayo's clear eyes, thought for a moment, then nodded. That's the only way. Who told Sapphire to take you as her master? Wu-Ming nodded with satisfaction. Then, Wu-Ming left. Mei Yu and Luvia walked to a coffee shop and sat down. After all, even if they couldn't ask about Mayo's past, they should at least understand each other. However, Wu-Ming wasn't interested in listening to their conversation. Moreover, it didn't matter even if the other party found out something. According to his usual habits, Wu-Ming would go to Ilya's house to cook dinner. However, because of Mei Yu, Wu-Ming sent a message to Ilya and the others saying that he wouldn't be going today. After Wu-Ming returned home, he was busy in the kitchen. For Mei Yu, Wu-Ming even made several servings of omelette rice. After a moment, the doorbell rang. Wu-Ming sensed it and was a bit puzzled. Ilya? That's right, the people at the door were Ilya, Shiro, Sella, Lizette, and the others. Wu-Ming went to open the door. Big brother, Ilya smiled sweetly. Why are you here? Wu-Ming asked, puzzled. Shiro, Amiya and Sella were a bit embarrassed, while Lizette still looked indifferent. Hey, big brother. Didn't you say that your little sister is back? We wanted to celebrate. Ilya scratched her head in embarrassment. I think it's you guys who want to eat my cooking. Wu-Ming teased. Everyone was embarrassed. Come in, I'm cooking. Wu-Ming hurriedly stepped aside. Yes, everyone answered and walked into the Shua Yu residence. In the kitchen, Wu-Ming was busy. Because of today's special meaning, Wu-Ming chose not to let anyone help him. Instead, he chose to do it himself. Ilya and the others were sitting in the living room and chatting. After a moment, Mei Yu returned to the Shua Yu residence. I'm back, Mei Yu habitually shouted. You're back, Mei Yu. Wu-Ming walked out of the kitchen. Ilya and the others stood up and looked at Mei Yu. Mei Yu, let me introduce you. This is Ilya. Wu-Ming pointed at Ilya. For some reason, Mei Yu and Ilya looked at each other seriously. There was a special feeling between them. Then, Wu-Ming started to introduce the others. Shiro Amiya, Sella, and Lizette. When Shiro Amiya was introduced, Mayo's eyes flickered slightly. However, it quickly disappeared. Hello, I'm Shitsuki Mayu. It's our first time meeting. Please take care of me. Mayu bowed politely. So elegant. To the casual Ilya, this was undoubtedly someone else's child. Alright, you guys go ahead and chat. Sherlang, come with me to serve the dishes. The dishes are almost ready. Yes, big brother. Soon, a large table of dishes was placed on the table. Looking at the sumptuous table, Ilya gasped in amazement. Wow, what a sumptuous meal. Big brother loves Mayu very much. Ilya looked at Mayu with a hint of envy. Mayu did not say anything. Instead, she looked at the omelette rice before her that was arranged in a heart shape.
Brother Wu-Ming, I'm very happy now.
Mayu mumbled softly and smiled.
Wu-Ming and the others did not hear Mayo's words.
Then Wu-Ming said, I didn't intend to cook so much.
If you guys hadn't come, I would have only made enough for Mayu and me.
Everyone started to eat heartily. By the way, Brother Wu-Ming's house is so big. Aren't there any other servants? Sella was concerned about this. Perhaps it was because she was a nanny.
Wu-Ming put down his chopsticks and said, No.
How should I put it? The Shuayu residence is built with special wood that can effectively reduce dust. Hence, there's no need to specially clean it. Is there such wood? Sella muttered to herself in confusion. Wu-Ming hurriedly used suggestion magic to influence the others. However, after Ilya was affected, her body seemed to have a protective shield. Only a slight fluctuation appeared in her eyes. Soon, they finished their dinner. After sending Ilya and the others away, Wu-Ming taught Mayu some basic knowledge of magic. Well, most of it was taught by Collis. After all, Wu-Ming did not understand such basic things. When it was almost midnight, Mayu said goodbye to Wu-Ming and left the Shuayu residence. Be careful on the road. Wu-Ming waved and watched Mayu leave. Wu-Ming, who was still worried, used invisibility again and followed behind Mayu. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.